Man, we have the game of the week that's playing out in Frankfurt in the Central Conference this week. And Kyle Sweet continues his race to try to get that triple crown. Week 13. Let's go.
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking out.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Base Coverage presented to you by Knoah Teamwear. I'm your host, Jamal Clay. And before we get into this interview, I need everyone to subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop a comment. Let's talk some ball. Let me know what you guys think about everything, all right? Now, today, as we head into week 13 of the ELF, we're going to get right into the heat of, the playoff race. We're going to talk about a little bit of topics. I'm going to quickly break down some of the games. I'm not going to get too depth into all of them because there's only a few that really matter at this point in the season. And then we're going to talk about, some topics as well. No celebrity guest picker this week, so I'll just make my picks, and there won't be any winner or loser. But if I have a good record, I'll still give out some free gear along the way. Interview today, we have Lucas Ross joining the show today, linebacker for the Ryan Fire. He's a good dude. Last time we played against each other was 2016 at the Swiss Bowl, and I won't talk too much about it, but Burn did get the victory that year. But I'm happy to have him come on and chop it up a little bit about, his current situation with the Ryan Fire and, what the future looks like, and also talking some ball in Switzerland. So we'll get into that interview right after this quick word from our partners over at Knoah Teamwear. Welcome back, everyone, to the show. Today, our special guest to join us, come chop it up a little bit, talk some ball. We have Mr. Lucas Ross from the Ryan Fire. So, Luke, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Hey, I want everyone who watches this show in the ELF to kind of embrace this moment right here, because if you know anything about football in Switzerland, the Calanda Broncos and the Bern Grizzlies don't really get along much. Actually, shout out to Bern for winning the Swiss Bowl this past year. So, Lucas, you get your props there, but I promise my Broncos we'll be back. We'll be back, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been this rivalry, or as a matter of fact, Calanda always used to be much better than Bern. And I remember before I went to college in 2016, we won it well in the Swiss Bowl, but after that, I mean, Calanda has been dominating, so it's good that Bern can step it up with Calanda out there. Yeah,
the funny thing about last time you guys winning it was actually the last time that I was over there in 2016. So you guys got the leg up on me there. But like I said, anything about Switzerland, this is one of the best rivalries in Europe. It's always a good ball to watch these guys play. So. But hey, let's dive into it a little bit. There's a couple of things I want to, chop it up and talk some ball with you about. So obviously you play for the Ryan Fire. This is one of the most historic, franchises in the ELF based on their history from the NFL Europe days. One thing that's different about this franchise that I think separates, a lot of other franchises is the rich history of the fan base you got there. I mean, your home games, you're playing in front of 8,000, 9,000 plus. And this past week playing against the Galaxy, about 12,000 fans there. So, what's it like playing in front of a big crowd like that in Europe? Because obviously you go to the States, you go to the CFL, you're playing in front of big crowds. But to have a crowd like that in Europe, in one of the best leagues in Europe, what's it like playing for a team like that?
It's different. I didn't think that it's going to be able to experience that over here in Europe, to be quite honest. And the crazy thing is, even walking around the city, sometimes you see people wearing the old Ryan Fire jerseys, and it's like, it's just not known that people recognize you on the street, or that you just see people wearing your stuff and representing Ryan Fire like that. It's great, and it's nice to experience that. And obviously in the stadium, playing in front of 12,000 people in a legit stadium, having a real fan base, and the whole show around the game, the pre-game party. I mean, if the game starts at 3, we started at 12 with the party. They got a little concert going on. They got bull riding, all that stuff. So it's just nice that it got to that level, and I'm sure it'll increase as well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is that, like, I was watching the game, and obviously it was a close game when you guys pulling out the victory, but they're not just fans that are going to go watch the game. These fans are invested, and at one point watching the game, all 12,000 fans were standing. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, in 2 years, this 12,000 can turn to 20,000. So it's gonna be cool to watch as the league grows, how the fan base is, not only for the Fire grow, but around the league. But hey, when they decided to start this team for this upcoming year, they brought in a very experienced coach, and Coach Jim Tomsula. Obviously, he has the NFL pedigree, and being a head coach in the NFL. For him to have him as a head coach for the Rhein Fire, what's it been like playing for him? What have you been able to learn under Coach Tomsula and playing for him for the Rhein Fire?
Yeah, I think it's big time that he came back to Rhein Fire. Obviously, it's great for the players having a person like that in your staff and motivating you and show you how professional football should look like. But it's also just for the whole organization that it's great, because you got the coaches that can actually learn from him. You have the organization that can learn how to run a program, and at the same time, you have the fans that were like, "Oh, we got an old NFL Europe coach coming back, so this whole thing has to be legit." If they just would have got some unknown coaches that nobody really knows about, and they're not sure how they're going to raise that program, then I'm not sure if the fan base would have adapted to this whole ELF thing as well as they did. Because just the name Tomsula had such a big name here in Rhein Fire, in the Düsseldorf area, that this whole thing, I'm not sure if it could have been as big without him.
Yeah, and obviously coming up a big win, you beat your biggest rival twice. You get a new contract. So shout out to Coach, who just re-signed with the Fire, and he will be back next year. And that's good for you guys and good for the organization. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the Fire always had a passionate fan base, but bringing someone with that pedigree in is just intensified it and just brought more eyes and more attention to you guys. And obviously playing under him, you guys not only enjoy it, but you're learning a lot. And he's able to teach and groom a lot of coaches as well too. So, but hey, man, big win last week. You guys are right in the thick of this playoff race, which is essentially a 4-team race, but the Raiders do kind of, control their own destiny at this point. But the team you just beat, you're going to be rooting for now, because I think if I remember correctly, the way it works out, if the Galaxy beat the Raiders, you guys are in. But if the Raiders win, then you gotta hope Berlin can beat the Raiders in order for you guys to get in. So you don't control your own destiny, and I mean, obviously, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. You got a lighter next to opponents than what you have been playing. Obviously you don't have any control of what can happen, but what can you guys do to make sure there's no slip offs, there's no drop offs within these next two games, depending on what happens with the Raiders?
Well, what I can tell, it's like from week to, we had that quarterback change in the middle of the season, which obviously mixed up our offense a lot, and we had to change the system we were running a little bit because we had some personnel change as well. But you were able to see that the offense got into a way better rhythm from game to game. Mm-hmm. Even that Barcelona game we lost, we had a great offensive performance if you take away these two turnovers to touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
After that, we're moving the ball, and on defense now we're finally able to put everything together as well. Because if you really think about it, compared to a lot of other teams, we're a brand new franchise with new players, with new coaches, with a new concept. So I feel like we're finally getting everything together and being able to play as a team. So I don't see us getting weaker from week to week. We can literally tell in practice and on games that we are stepping up and getting better from game to game. So as long as we can get better, we're going to be able to win these games. And then it's not really on us anymore. Just got to see what the Raiders do.
You guys are now the biggest fans for the Frankfurt Galaxy for these upcoming weeks. Hopefully that'll be the only time.
That'll be the only time where probably the Rhein Fire fan base will root for the Galaxy fan base.
Most definitely. Hey man, I know you probably can't talk too much about it, but I just want to get kind of like your feedback. So obviously we have me and you we share, a commonality with, playing ball in Switzerland, and now there's going to be an ELF team in Switzerland to represent the country. So I'm not asking, do you plan on joining? What's your future plans? I'm not asking you that, but what does it mean for football in Switzerland? What are your thoughts on having a team in Switzerland like the Helvetic Guards represented in the ELF in 2023 and going forward?
Well, I think it's one of the best decisions that they were able to create a team in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Because the football in Switzerland, the level that has been playing was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But people just overlook the football in Switzerland.
Yeah.
That the amount of imports we had in Switzerland and for the level we were playing was actually a good level.
Yeah.
But people just didn't really recognize the Swiss level as much.
Yeah.
And then, like the fan base in Switzerland just wasn't as big.
Yeah.
So, but now that we have the ELF, it actually creates that opportunity that people in Switzerland can display on how good they are. And they can finally compete on a regular basis to see how they match up with other European teams.
Yeah.
So I think just for the development of the football in Switzerland, it's a step that had to happen.
Yeah, and I think it came as a surprise for all of us. I mean, you've heard things about other countries, a London, the Scandinavian team, of Paris, and all those countries are probably still going to come into the play, if not next year, then the years following. But the Helvetic Guards came like out of left field. No one knew. Not even people in the staff or the coaches and players I spoke to had any leaks or anything about this was coming. So this came as a big surprise. It really shook up everything. But
yeah,
for me, someone who's played ball in Switzerland only throughout my 3 years in Europe, just to have a team represented in this league is exciting. So I'm excited to see like what happens and how the organization forms and going forward and stuff like that. But again, I just wanted to get like, your thoughts on that and everything.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, my bad for I'm interrupting, but I think the biggest thing is that people just have to buy in.
Yeah.
They have to buy into that whole ELF program and have to want to represent Switzerland and just want to be on a bigger stage.
Yeah.
Because they can literally be from playing in front of 500 people to playing at Rhine Fire in front of 12,000 people.
Well,
I mean, who's used to playing in front of thousands of people if you're playing in Switzerland?
Yeah.
Nobody really is unless you're an import player. So having that extra motivation to play on another level I think that's a step that has to happen, that people in Switzerland buy in and they actually commit to it, even though it might be, well, it's something brand new. And I'm I know that I can talk to people, I can tell that they're unsure.
They're a little hesitant. They're a little hesitant about it.
So it'll definitely mix up the situation in Switzerland football-wise. So it'll be exciting to see what's going to happen.
Most definitely. But hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's been good, talking to you a little bit. I probably haven't talked to you since 2016, but you've had a nice little career with playing ball overseas, getting drafted to the CFL, playing, for the Rhine Fire. So, you're trending in the right direction while my career was just trending downwards and we led right into retirement. But hey, it was good to chop it up a little bit. You guys have the Centurions this week. You go to Cologne? You go to Cologne?
Yes, we'll play in Cologne on Saturday.
Gotcha. All right, well, hey, good luck this weekend, man. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, it's not many times where, Cologne, the Bronco, and the Burn Grizzly get together, but it's good to chop it up a little bit. So, hey, this won't be the last time we talk, but it was good talking to you, man.
That's good. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. that was a nice interview we had with my guy Lucas Ross. I appreciate him coming on. We have a nice little history together, so it was good to chop it up a little bit. So, like I said before, we're gonna get down to the breakdown of these games this week. It's gonna be a quick breakdown. I'm not gonna get too far in depth just because, again, there's only a few games that matter, but I will talk about some topics, along the way. So, the first game we got. The Berlin Thunder traveled to Turkey to play the Istanbul Rams. Don't look past this game because even though Berlin needs these next two victories in order to have a shot at making the playoffs, this game could potentially be a trap game for the Thunder. The Rams playing, well, excuse me. The Rams have played better ball the second half of the season with their new imports, and they will love to mess some stuff up for Berlin. So I wouldn't look too deeply past the Rams as they have the Raiders next week for the Berlin Thunder, but it's definitely going to be a good game. I think the Berlin Thunder bounced back after a disappointing loss last week against Hamburg, who's essentially running the North and potentially going to take the #1 seed. So for this one, I'm going to take the Berlin Thunder to beat the Rams. I don't think it'll be a blowout because, again, I think the Rams are at least competing, but I think there's a lot on the line for Berlin, so we'll see what happens here. Next, we have the Rhein Fire traveling to Cologne to play the Centurions. Last game against the Raiders, the Centurions were really getting bullied up front by the Raiders defensive line. I think the Rhein Fire had the chance to potentially do the same thing. Rhein Fire have a lot on the line here in terms of playoff implications, and they have an easier back end schedule than a lot of other teams that are in that playoff race. I don't see the Rhein Fire slipping. I just think Cologne's in a position where they just can't get right. Nothing's really going their way. They're not really gelling as a unit. Rhein Fire, they've been playing better and better each week. Jadrian has been playing a lot better. Harlan Kofi's a dog. Timothy Canute's coming along. Nathaniel Robitaille is doing what he has to do, and literally he's a top 3 receiver in the league. And then on the defensive side, one guy that I know everyone talks about Amari Williams and Fabrizio Umantelli or Lucas Ross, but one guy that everyone needs to pay attention to is Christian Van Horn, the defensive tackle. He has been a dog the past couple of games. He's been, dominating, and I expect him to do the same against that Cologne offensive line. That's just not right. I'm going to pick the Fire to beat the Cologne Centurions this week. As we move into the Sunday slate, one of the top 2 games this week, we have the rematch. Barcelona Dragons travel to Vienna to play the Vikings. Hey, I think this game is going to be a good one. Especially how both teams, played the last time around. Barcelona really controlled the game a lot for the first half, and then I don't know what happened, but Vienna just came back. They fought through. I think they were down 20-8 going into the fourth quarter, and then next thing you know, they had a nice little bounce back and ultimately sealing the victory in Barcelona. Barcelona has the toughest schedule the remaining way of the season because so their next 3 games, you got Vienna Vikings, you got Hamburg Sea Devils. And then there's a good chance, depending on your situation, you're going to see one of those 2 teams again in the first round. So unless you get the #1 seed, and then you'll see, a 4th potential seed, but you're going to see one of those 2 teams again in the 3rd round. So that's 3 weeks of playing, the 2 teams potentially. And then they make it to the championship game. There's a potential you're going to see the other one. So literally, Barcelona, if you're going to earn a championship, you're about to go through this gauntlet, and you're about to get all the smoke. And if there's any team that's ready and embracing that, it's the Dragons. They're not running away from any challenges. You could talk to their coaches, and they back the personality of the coach that they got to embrace every fight. So this is the first game of a long stretch going forward. It's gonna be good to see another rematch between Kyle Sweet and Xavier Edwards. I think one of the game changers last game was Edwards was on Sweet for most of the second half, and really slowed things down for that Barcelona offense. I'm interested to see the matchup this week. Sweet, there's no doubt about it. He is going for the Triple Crown. He leads in reception, leads in yards, and now the touchdown ratio is just going to be the one category he's going to need in order to get that Triple Crown and maybe be the first Triple Crown winner in the ELF history. So it's going to be a great game. I'm going to pick the Barcelona Dragons. I think they go to Vienna. I think they get a little revenge in this rematch, and ultimately they seal the deal. I'm going to pick the Dragons to beat the Vienna Vikings in Vienna this week. Next, we got the T-Roll Raiders travel to Frankfurt to play the Galaxy. This is the game I'm going to be watching, right? Because the Raiders, if they win, they eliminate Frankfurt and Rheinfire. And then, you know, if let's say Berlin beats the Rams, then it comes down to that Raiders-Berlin game in Berlin. Who's going to get that 4th spot in the playoffs? So the Galaxy coming off a tough loss against the Fire. How do you bounce back? Because you're still in the nick of this, all right? You can still you need some help, to say the least. Because if you win and then the Fire win, then ultimately the Fire get that 4th spot. But if you win and the Fire lose, then a lot's going to get interesting in week 14. But how do you bounce back? You're at home. You know, you proved to us that you could take down guys like teams like Vienna. So are you going to be able to do that with the Raiders? The Raiders are a team that has probably been the most consistent in terms of how they've been playing. They really want to attack the middle of the field and get their balls to their playmakers quick and in space. They don't really attack the outsides. So how do the Galaxy match that, especially when you have 2 corners that are going to match up? Are you going to play more man and, you know, cover Marco Schneider or Chris Hahn or an Adrian Platzgummer? It's going to be interesting to see the chess match between the Frankfurt back 7 versus the Raiders offensive weapons. So this is going to be a real close game. I'm going to see, it's so hard because I thought I knew who I was going with, but I'm a little unsure. So ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the team that's been the most consistent and been playing the best ball as of late. I'm going to rock with the Frankfurt Galaxy to beat the Raiders. And this is why. I think Frankfurt is a team that plays to, you know, they play well versus good teams. Sometimes they're inconsistent and having trouble finishing games. But I've seen the potential in what this team could be with Jacob Sullivan versus the Vienna Vikings, a team that has beat the Raiders twice. Even though football is all about matchups, I think Frankfurt at home rebounds and they beat the Galaxy, and it makes things very interesting for that 4th spot, because we could potentially have a team clinch this week, and we could potentially have 2 or 3 teams eliminated. But a lot's going to come down to this Galaxy Raiders game. I'm going to pick the Galaxy to rebound and beat the Raiders this week. All right, here we go. We have the Kings versus Surge. I'm going to just keep this quick. I think the new quarterback for the Kings has, you know, provided, you know, some type of some type of fire to that offense in terms of a mobile quarterback who could also run the ball downfield. If you're being honest with me, with the releasing of Benji Barnes and how the organization's been going, I think the Surge are done. I don't think they win another game this week. I'm going to pick the Kings to beat the Stuttgart Surge this week. Last game we have the Russell Panthers versus the Hamburg Sea Devils. Hey, this one's going to be easy for me. Hamburg Sea Devils are going to win this game. Their defense is the most dominant defense. They play the most consistent ball. If anything, they're tweaking and gearing up for this playoff run, and they're probably going to be managing guys. Panthers, such a disappointing season for the Panthers. High expectations for them, potentially championship contender. They just weren't able to pull it through. Too many injuries on the offensive line. Defense hasn't been playing well. I think this game could get ugly. I'm picking the Sea Devils to beat the Panthers at home. Well, those are my picks, everyone. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, there's no celebrity guest picker this week. However, if we go above 500 or we have a winning record, I'll give out some free gear on behalf of our partners over at Knoah Teamwear. But hey, don't forget to follow the brand in terms of follow Knoah Teamwear. Follow Athletes Forum on Instagram and subscribe to the channel. And let's talk some ball. Leave a comment, like the video, and let's chop it up, all right? This won't be the last time we talk, but week 13, let's see what happens.
Nobody, hard work, they don't know about. Hard work, they don't